Good. Send them this message. This is Earth. We received your distress call. Help is coming. Hold on. Elena's hands flew across her keyboard, encoding the message in the same mathematical format the Keltharians had used. As the transmission began its journey across space, President Chen turned to address the room. General Morrison, I'm authorizing Operation Sanctuary. You have unlimited resources and complete authority to mobilize our entire fleet for this evacuation. Director Foster, work with the General to retrofit our ships for maximum passenger capacity. Secretary Williams, prepare a cover story for the media until we're ready to announce this publicly. How long do we have? Asked General Morrison. Foster consulted her calculations again. If we push our engines to maximum safe limits and minimize stops for resupply, we could reach the Keltharian system in 4 months. That gives us approximately 2 months to evacuate 2 billion individuals before their planetary shields fail completely. Then we'd better get started, Morrison replied grimly. As the meeting broke up and officials hurried to their tasks, Elena remained at her station, monitoring the cosmos for any sign that their message had been received. She thought about the desperate aliens on their dying world, probably convinced that the universe had abandoned them. They had no idea that humans were about to prove them wrong. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, flagship of humanity's newly assembled rescue fleet. Through the massive view screen, she could see dozens of other ships stretching into the distance, their hulls gleaming silver against the starfield. Every available vessel had been pressed into service. Military cruisers, colony ships, mining haulers, even converted passenger liners. Fleet status report, she commanded. Her first officer, Commander James Park, consulted his displays. All vessels report ready for departure, Captain. Total passenger capacity stands at 2.3 billion, with emergency overcrowding protocols. Sarah nodded grimly. They had space for everyone, but it would be tight. Very tight. Communications, any word from the Keltharian system? Yes, Mom, replied Lieutenant Sofia Hernandez. We received their response to our initial message 6 hours ago. They're having trouble believing someone is actually coming to help them. Sarah could understand their disbelief. According to intelligence reports, every other galactic civilization had either ignored the Keltharians or demanded payment for assistance. The concept of altruistic rescue seemed foreign to the established galactic order. Well, Sarah said, settling into her command chair, they're about to learn something about humanity. All ships, prepare for jump to hyperspace. It's time to show the galaxy what human compassion looks like. The fleet vanished in a brilliant flash of light, beginning humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. When humans answer the call. 4 months later, the human rescue fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Keltharian system. The sight that greeted them was both beautiful and terrifying. Kelthar Prime hung in space like a jewel wrapped in deadly fire, its protective shields glowing bright blue as they struggled against the cosmic radiation storm that surrounded the planet. Captain Sarah Chen studied the tactical display with growing concern. The radiation levels were even worse than their long-range scans had indicated. Science Officer, Analysis. Lieutenant Commander David Kim ran his hands over his console, his face grave. The cosmic storm has intensified significantly since we left Earth. Planetary shield strength is down to 43% and falling. At current degradation rates, complete failure will occur in approximately 6 weeks. 6 weeks. They had planned for 8 to 10 weeks of evacuation time. Sarah felt the weight of 2 billion lives pressing down on her shoulders. Communications, open a channel to the Keltharian government. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Alliance Rescue Fleet. We have arrived as promised and are prepared to begin immediate evacuation operations. The response came quickly, transmitted in the musical language of the Keltharians with translation following. Human Fleet, this is Commander HFY of Kelthar Prime. We cannot express our gratitude. When you first contacted us, Many of our people believed it was too good to be true. No one comes to help without asking for payment. Sarah's expression hardened slightly. Commander, humans don't charge for rescue operations. We're here because you called for help, and that's enough. What's your evacuation capacity? Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been monitoring deep space signals for 3 years without detecting anything more interesting than automated trading beacons. She worked the night shift at the Arecibo Deep Space Monitoring Station, one of Earth's newest facilities dedicated to listening for signs of alien life. Most nights were quiet, filled with the gentle hum of equipment and the occasional meteorological report. Tonight was different. Computer, isolate, and enhance signal designation Alpha 774, she commanded, leaning forward in her chair as strange patterns flickered across her screens. The computer processed the request, filtering out cosmic background noise and amplifying the weak signal. What emerged was clearly artificial, structured in mathematical sequences that no natural phenomenon could produce. Holy hell, Elena whispered, her coffee cup forgotten as she stared at the translation software's output. The message was a distress call, desperate and repeated, broadcasting the same plea in dozens of different languages and mathematical formats. She reached for her secure communications device and dialed the emergency contact for the United Earth Defense Initiative. General Morrison, this is Dr. Rodriguez at Arecibo. You need to get down here immediately. We've got a Code 7 situation. Within 6 hours, the cramped monitoring station buzzed with activity. General Patricia Morrison, Secretary of Defense Williams, and Director Amanda Foster of the Earth Space Program crowded around Elena's workstation, studying the translated message. They're asking for evacuation assistance, Elena explained, highlighting sections of the decoded transmission. Their entire world is being sterilized by cosmic radiation. They estimate 6 months before total planetary death. Secretary Williams frowned at the display. How do we know this isn't some kind of trap? We've never had direct contact with hostile alien forces before. Look at the signal pattern, Elena replied, pulling up additional data. This message has been broadcasting continuously for months. It's gone out to every major civilization we've identified in our stellar cartography. If this were a trap, why cast such a wide net? General Morrison studied the tactical implications. What kind of response are they getting from other alien governments? Elena's expression darkened. That's the disturbing part. We've intercepted several response transmissions. Most are demanding payment or trade agreements in exchange for aid. Others are offering refugee status for a tiny fraction of their population. One civilization actually told them that extinction events are natural selection at work. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Director Foster spoke first. So we're looking at a species of 2 billion individuals facing extinction, and the galactic community's response is to either ignore them or profit from their desperation. That's about the size of it, Elena confirmed. Secretary Williams shook his head. We barely have the technology for interstellar travel. Our fastest ships would take months to reach their system. What could we possibly do that advanced civilizations cannot? General Morrison's jaw tightened. We can try. When someone sends out a distress call, you respond. That's not negotiable. But the logistics alone, Williams began. Will be challenging, Director Foster interrupted, but not impossible. We have the new Genesis-class colony ships designed for long-term space habitation. We could retrofit them for mass evacuation. General Morrison nodded. How many ships would we need? Foster ran quick calculations on her tablet. For 2 billion individuals, we'd need to mobilize everything we have. Every colony ship, every transport vessel, every military cruiser with life support capacity. We're talking about the largest evacuation in human history. Do it, came a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see President Sarah Chen entering the room, flanked by her security detail. I've been briefed on the situation. We're not going to sit here debating cost-benefit analysis while an entire civilization dies. Secretary Williams stepped forward. "Madam President, with respect, this operation would consume our entire space fleet. We'd be leaving Earth virtually defenseless." President Chen's expression remained firm. Defenseless against what? Every indication suggests that the galactic community operates on principles of profit and self-interest. If we demonstrate that humans operate differently, that we respond to distress calls regardless of personal gain, we establish ourselves as something unique in galactic politics. She walked to Alina's workstation and studied the Keltharian message. "Dr. Rodriguez, can you establish two-way communication with these people?" "Yes, Madam President. It might take several hours for our response to reach them, but it's possible." The political ramifications were immediate and far-reaching. Smaller species throughout the galaxy began to see humanity as a potential protector and ally. Several minor civilizations sent diplomatic overtures to Earth, seeking trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. The major galactic powers, however, viewed the human intervention with growing concern. In the chambers of the hegemony of worlds, emergency sessions debated the implications of a species that would act without regard for profit or political advantage. "These humans are unpredictable," declared Supreme Chancellor Vex Moth during one such session. "They operate outside established galactic norms. This makes them dangerous." Or, suggested a dissenting voice from the representative of the Ta City Coalition, "perhaps it makes our established norms inadequate." As the human rescue fleet began its journey toward Earth space with 2 billion Keltharian refugees, Captain Sarah Chen stood on her bridge and reflected on what they had accomplished. They had not only saved an entire civilization, but had also announced humanity's arrival on the galactic stage in the most dramatic way possible. "Captain," reported Commander Park, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. President Chen wants to speak with you personally." Sarah smiled at the mention of her sister's name. "Put her through." President Chen's image appeared on the main screen, her expression a mixture of pride and concern. "Sarah, the entire world is watching the news feeds from your operation. You've made humanity proud, but you've also made us some powerful enemies." "I know, Madam President, but we've also made some important friends. The Keltharians are offering to share their advanced technology with us, and several other species have reached out about forming alliances." "That's what I wanted to discuss," the President continued. "It's clear that humanity is now a major player in galactic politics, whether we want it to be or not. We need to be prepared for whatever comes next." Sarah nodded, looking out at the fleet of ships carrying their rescued aliens toward new homes and new hope. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it the same way we faced this crisis, together, with courage and with compassion. That's what makes us human." Behind them, the Keltharian homeworld shields finally failed, and deadly radiation scoured the surface of a planet that had been home to billions. But those billions were safe now, traveling toward new worlds and new possibilities, saved by a species that had dared to care when no one else would. The galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had shown that there was an alternative to the cold calculations of profit and politics. They had proven that sometimes the right thing to do was simply to help when help was needed. And across the stars, other voices began to whisper the same desperate plea that had started it all. "Help us." Now, for the first time in galactic history, they had reason to believe that someone would answer. "Captain Chen, did you say?" "Everyone. Every single Keltharian, Commander. That's why we're here." On the surface of Kelthar Prime, Commander HFY stared at his communications console in wonder. Around him, the entire command center had fallen silent as his staff processed what they had just heard. Technical specialist Rix Anna was the first to speak. "They'd brought ships for everyone," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. "Not some of us. Not the wealthy or the useful. Everyone." HFY nodded slowly, struggling to comprehend such unprecedented generosity. "Begin immediate coordination with the human fleet. Emergency evacuation protocols are now in effect. Contact all city centers and tell them that salvation has arrived." The news spread across Kelthar Prime like wildfire. In the crystal spires of the great cities, Keltharian families gathered their precious belongings and prepared for a journey they had never imagined possible. Children who had never seen the stars except through the deadly aurora of radiation wondered what their new home would be like. In orbit above the dying planet, Captain Chen coordinated the largest rescue operation in galactic history. Human ships spread throughout the system, their crews working with methodical efficiency to establish evacuation zones and processing centers. "Captain," reported Commander Park, "we're receiving priority communications from several galactic governments. The Zephyrian Empire, the Trade Consortium, and the Hegemony of Worlds all want to speak with you urgently." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "I bet they do. Put them through, but on separate channels. I want to hear what each of them has to say." The first transmission came from the Zephyrian Empire, their harsh language translated into clipped, formal English. "Human Commander, we are surprised by your presence in this system. The Keltharian situation has already been assessed by proper galactic authorities. Your interference is unnecessary and potentially destabilizing to established protocols." Sarah's response was equally formal, but carried an edge of steel. "Zephyrian Command, this is a humanitarian rescue operation. We are not interfering with any established protocols because apparently your protocols don't include actually helping people." The next message came from the Galactic Trade Consortium. "Captain Chen, we represent significant commercial interests in this sector. Your unauthorized rescue operation sets a dangerous precedent. If species believe they can receive free assistance during crisis events, it will severely impact the emergency services market." Sarah stared at the message in disbelief before responding. "Trade Consortium, I want to make sure I understand you correctly. You're concerned that saving lives for free will hurt your business of charging for rescue operations." "Precisely," came the reply. "We must insist that you cease these activities and allow licensed emergency contractors to handle the situation through proper commercial channels." "Noted and ignored," Sarah replied, cutting the connection. The third message was from the Hegemony of Worlds, the most powerful political entity in the galaxy. Their communication carried the weight of ultimate authority. "Human fleet, you are operating in violation of established galactic law regarding intervention in natural extinction events. Withdraw immediately or face consequences." This time, Sarah's response was broadcast on open channels so that every ship in the system, human and alien alike, could hear it. "Hegemony of Worlds, this is Captain Sarah Chen. I want to make something very clear to you and anyone else listening. When someone sends out a distress call, humans respond. We don't check their credit rating first. We don't calculate profit margins. We don't debate whether they deserve to live. We come, and we help, because that's what decent beings do. If that violates your laws, then your laws are wrong." Throughout the Keltharian system, alien monitoring stations and commercial vessels listened to the human captain's words with growing amazement. Never before had anyone spoken to the galactic powers with such defiant moral clarity. The evacuation proceeded with remarkable efficiency. Human crews worked 18-hour shifts, loading Keltharian families onto transport shuttles and processing them through the fleet's hastily expanded life support systems. The ships were crowded, sometimes uncomfortably so, but every being had space, food, and safety. On the third week of operations, an unexpected development occurred. A small fleet of ships appeared at the edge of the system, their configuration unfamiliar to both human and Keltharian sensors. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Hernandez, "we're receiving a transmission from the unknown fleet. They identify themselves as the Nixhari Collective." Sarah had never heard of the Nixhari, but their timing was suspicious. "Put them through." "Captain," reported Lieutenant Hernandez, "we're receiving a transmission from the unknown fleet. They identify themselves as the Nixhari Collective." Sarah had never heard of the Nixhari, but their timing was suspicious. "Put them through." The voice that emerged from the speakers was soft and melodic, almost hypnotic in its rhythm. "Human rescuers, This is Matriarch Silera of the Nixhari Collective. We have traveled far to witness these unprecedented events. Your actions have created considerable discussion throughout our territory. Matriarch Silera, this is Captain Chen. Are you here to help with the evacuation? In a manner of speaking, yes. We offer transport for any Keltharians who prefer to travel with us rather than endure the overcrowded conditions of your vessels. Our ships are more comfortable, and we can provide luxury accommodations during the journey. Sarah's instincts immediately went on alert. And what do you want in return? Merely a reasonable service fee, nothing excessive. Perhaps mining rights to the abandoned Keltharian colony worlds, or preferential trade agreements. Simple compensation for our assistance. Before Sarah could respond, Commander Zephay's voice crackled over the communication system. Captain Chen, this is the Keltharian government. We respectfully decline the collective's offer. We will remain with the humans who came to help us without asking for anything in return. Matriarch Silera's tone became slightly sharper. Commander Zephay, surely you understand that nothing in the galaxy is truly free. These humans will eventually present their bill for services rendered. When they do, you may find our terms were more generous. It was Captain Chen who responded, her voice carrying across all frequencies. Matriarch, I want to be very clear about something. Humans don't present bills for rescue operations. We help because help is needed. That's not a business transaction. It's basic morality. Your species is naive, Silera replied. Such idealism will not survive contact with galactic realities. We'll see about that, Sarah said, cutting the transmission. The Nixhari fleet lingered at the system's edge for several days before departing, their matriarch's predictions echoing in the minds of many observers. Throughout the galaxy, the human rescue operation had become the subject of intense debate and speculation. As the evacuation entered its final phase, Captain Chen received an unexpected visitor. Commander Zephay himself came aboard the Horizon, wearing a specially designed environmental suit that allowed him to breathe in the human standard atmosphere. Captain Chen, he said, his translated voice carrying deep emotion, I needed to speak with you personally before my people complete their departure from our homeworld. Of course, Commander. What can I do for you? Zephay gestured toward the view screen, where Kelthar Prime hung in space, its shields now flickering weakly as they prepared for final failure. For generations, my people believed that the galaxy was a cold place where survival depended on strength, wealth, or political connections. Your species has shown us something different. We've shown you that some people actually care about doing the right thing. More than that, Zephay replied. You've shown us that caring is not weakness, but strength. The other galactic powers mock your idealism, but they also fear it. You represent something they cannot understand or control. Genuine altruism. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Where will your people go now? We can take you to several uninhabited systems with suitable worlds for colonization. We have discussed this extensively among our leadership, Zephay said. If you will have us, we would like to request asylum within human space. We wish to become allies of Earth, not merely refugees you rescued. The request surprised Sarah, but she could see the logic in it. That's a decision above my rank, Commander, but I suspect Earth would welcome the Keltharians as neighbors and friends. There is something else, Zephay continued. Our scientists and engineers have spent centuries developing advanced technologies. We have knowledge of faster-than-light communication, enhanced shielding systems, and environmental restoration techniques. We offer these freely to humanity as a gift of gratitude. Commander, you don't owe us anything. Captain, Zephay interrupted gently, you saved our entire civilization without asking for payment. The least we can do is share our knowledge with those who prove that decency still exists in the galaxy. As the final Keltharian transports departed their dying homeworld, news of the successful evacuation spread throughout galactic space. The human rescue fleet had accomplished what many thought impossible: the complete evacuation of an entire planetary population in less than 6 weeks. The desperate call. The crystalline spires of Kelthar Prime gleamed like diamonds against the dying light of their red giant sun. Once these towers had pulsed with the warm amber glow of a thriving civilization. Now they flickered weakly, their light growing dimmer with each passing day. High above the planet's surface, deadly streams of cosmic radiation painted aurora-like curtains across the sky, beautiful but lethal. In the deepest chamber of the central communication array, Commander HFY pressed his scaled hands against the control panel. His people, the Keltharians, had evolved from aquatic creatures millions of years ago, and their smooth, silver-blue skin still retained the ability to sense electromagnetic changes in their environment. Right now, every nerve in his body screamed warnings about the radiation levels battering their world. "Status report," HFY commanded, his voice carrying the musical quality typical of his species. Technical specialist Rixana looked up from her console, her large, dark eyes reflecting the dim emergency lighting. "The planetary shields are holding at 60% capacity, Commander. But the cosmic storm is intensifying. Our scientists estimate we have perhaps 8 cycles before complete shield failure." 8 cycles. In human terms, that meant roughly 6 months before their world became uninhabitable. The cosmic radiation storm had appeared suddenly 3 cycles ago, born from the collision of 2 neutron stars in a nearby system. The resulting wave of deadly energy was slowly but surely cooking their planet. "Any responses to our distress calls?" HFY asked, though he already knew the answer from Rixana's expression. "The Galactic Trade Consortium acknowledged our message yesterday," she replied carefully. "They expressed sympathy for our situation, but stated that intervention would require a formal trade agreement worth at least 10 million galactic credits." HFY's hands clenched into fists. 10 million credits. His people were dying, and the most powerful economic force in the galaxy wanted to negotiate trade deals. What about the hegemony of worlds? They responded that cosmic events fall under natural selection protocols. They will not interfere with what they call evolutionary pressure points. The commander's reflection wavered in the polished metal surface of his workstation. Behind him, dozens of Keltharian technicians worked frantically at their posts, their movements becoming more desperate with each failed transmission. They had sent over 2,000 distress calls across known space, broadcasting on every frequency, in every language their translators could manage. "Sir," called out Communications Officer Velna from across the chamber, "we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian Empire." A flicker of hope crossed HFY's features. The Zephyrians were known for their advanced technology and military might. Perhaps they would help where others had failed. The message played through the chamber's speakers in the harsh, guttural language of the Zephyrians. The translation appeared on screens throughout the room. "Keltharian distress call acknowledged. Cost analysis indicates insufficient return on intervention investment. Suggest relocation to designated refugee worlds. Coordinates attached. Warning: refugee world capacity limited. First applicants receive priority." HFY stared at the message in disbelief. Refugee worlds. The Zephyrians were offering them the chance to become homeless wanderers, scattered across overcrowded planets where they would be treated as second-class beings, if they were lucky enough to even secure passage. "How many of our people could the refugee worlds accommodate?" he asked quietly. Rixana's fingers moved across her console, calculating. According to the data they provided, perhaps 50,000 individuals. Maybe 70,000 if we accept substandard living conditions. 50,000, out of a population of nearly 2 billion Keltharians. The chamber fell silent except for the steady hum of equipment and the occasional crackle of radiation interference. Every being present understood the mathematics of their doom. They were a minor species in a galaxy controlled by those who measured compassion in profit margins and political advantage. "Continue broadcasting," HFY ordered, his voice steady despite the despair weighing on his hearts. Someone, somewhere, must care about more than credits and politics. Unknown to the Keltharians, their latest distress call was at that very moment traveling through the cosmic void toward a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Earth had only recently developed the technology to detect such transmissions, and most alien civilizations considered humans to be primitive newcomers to galactic affairs.